Good morning, Arsenal community. And most importantly, good morning, Albert JTV community. I say good morning, but is it really? Arsenal 0, West Ham 1. As the title says, Toothless Arsenal. There's many words I could have used, but I will refrain from using them because of watershed moments. But people, before we get into this, let's smash the Albert J TV intro. And I can see the logic behind the signing, even though some Arsenal fans.
We actually worked a good passage of play.
Arsenal and footballing community. Like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to Albert J TV. And there you have it, people. Oh, missing my overlay. Give me 2 moments. There we are. People, good morning. Welcome back to Albert J TV. It feels like it's been a while, actually. But this is what happens when work and life, things take over. But thank you for joining me. Smash the like button. Apologies for the late start, only because I needed to have my Weetabix. And that is a God's honest truth. Yes, I could have had it a little bit earlier, but we are where we are. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. And when you do join in, of course, obliterate the like button and subscribe to Albert J TV. And audio listeners, of course, you won't be forgotten. So please look out for the audios, which I will put out at some point, probably this morning, so I can enjoy the rest of my Sunday, what's left of it after the afternoon before, as in yesterday. Let me come to the chat quickly. Big up to Suj, man. Thank you, brother. Good to see you in the chat as always. Your loyal support. Sometimes when I do a stream, I have to be honest, I kind of have a set agenda or what I might talk about, not even necessarily written down on paper, but just, or even sometimes in my head. But I was thinking about it when I was obviously doing the thumbnail for the show and setting up the stream yesterday. I can sit here and talk about the game, of course, which I will do. But I went on to Hybrid Squad yesterday. Big up Sophie Nicolau for the post-match after the game. And I didn't go to the game yesterday because, 1, I didn't get a ticket anyway. And 2, I wouldn't have tried to get one anyway because I was working. But I managed to get back just in time. I think I missed like the first minute of the game. But the first thing is, people talk about the lineup, for example. What I would have done, I know Arsenal down to the bare bones has been spoken about for quite a while, but I actually would have put Trossard in the false 9. I probably would even have started Mikel Moreno. I just think you look at where Arsenal are at this stage of the season, and we're playing a midfield player as our number 9 in a must-win game. Absolutely insane, but that's what we have. That's what we have. We're going to talk about many things. We're going to talk about the performance yesterday. We're going to talk about the playing squad. We're going to talk about the senior players. We're going to talk about the failure in terms of the January transfer window. We're going to talk about summer window even, because some people rated it pretty highly at the time, believe it or not. Let me come to the chat quickly because I have a very welcome guest in there. Big sister. Hey, go on, sis. I think I've seen my sister in my live stream chat maybe probably once since I've been doing YouTube. But Jen, love you, sis. Appreciate it. It's rare to get my sister in the chat, man. Flipping hell. Yeah, that's brought a smile to my face on a Sunday morning. Of course it has. Big up Matt as well. Suj, what you saying, bruv? It's too early for my wild take. So Odegaard in the summer. Use that money to buy Verts, then cancel Arteta's contract. Wow, man. Suj has gone in, bro. I'm going to touch on the Odegaard thing, but in terms of sort of bringing money in, and I'll stay with me. I'm going to come back to your point, Suj, at some point in the stream. But the game yesterday, now anybody that's seen my content in the last, I'd say, couple of months, there's a term I always keep using. It's called copy, paste, repeat. And if you've watched Arsenal, whether you've gone to the games this season, whether you watch the games at home, Suj, obviously, like I said, I think you're 11 hours ahead in Australia. Whenever you watch the games, and I said this on Dan Potts' channel when I went on their last Thursday, I think it was. Yeah, it was. And I said, I don't know how you guys feel in the chat or when you watch this back. Drop in the comments and obviously comment if you're watching now live on Facebook and YouTube. I've not enjoyed this season. I think it's been a struggle this season. I've gone to some of the games and there's some that stick out in my mind, and it's just been dreadful to watch. The football's been boring. I'm not entertained. I mean, remember the home game against Ipswich. I think that was 2 days after Christmas. It was dreadful home game. Tottenham at home, I think that was mid-January. Everton at home, the Kevin Campbell derby, 10 days before Christmas. And I'll be honest with you, I'm struggling to stay awake. What's happened to the football from 22-23? Maybe in a little bit of 23-24. We look so predictable. We look rigid. You can talk about teams figuring us out. You can talk about low blocks, which we will touch on. But it's been a hard watch this season. Now, you'll have sections of our fan base, for example, and I've seen it in live chat boxes, not on my channel necessarily, saying, I can't believe the negativity. For example, we're second in the league. We're down to the bare bones. We're sitting in the Champions League. But my point to that was, when I was mentioning hybrid squad, is don't tell me the obvious. I know that my 8-year-old nephew could turn around and tell you that. But I go back to the old adage, and that is, if you're not a stats person, cool. If you're not an XG person, cool. But what you do have, you have your own set of eyes. You've watched Arsenal enough this season. At the Emirates, away from home, crunch games, Carabao Cup semi-finals. And are you enjoying watching Arsenal this season? Do you still live in hope that we can win something this season? One of the things that's harmed us this season, and yesterday's game was indicative of that, and there's been other games in the Premier League this season with Arsenal where I find that if we go a goal down in games, and this is even before Havertz, before Martinelli, maybe even before Saka's injury, and a little bit in between Martin Odegaard being injured and then coming back, I fear for us when we go 1-0 down in games of football, because I don't think we've got the capability or we're good enough to get back into the games. That's been a bit evident this season. Even in games where we go ahead, we don't look like getting the second and killing games off. One of the biggest criticisms I've said about Arsenal, I said it on Hybrid Squad yesterday. I've said it for the last couple of seasons. Now, someone said to me, it's because of the tactics. I said, no, Arsenal do not have enough pace in the side. And on top of that, we don't have people that run in behind. You need to have that because you need to stretch fullbacks. You need to stretch wing backs. You need to stretch the centre backs. You need to occupy space. Arsenal don't do that. Everybody comes to feet. Everybody takes 3 or 4 touches. Martin Odegaard's a gifted footballer. And then, there's an opinion. Some people take the captaincy, but some people, he's not been good since he's come back from injury. The captaincy thing is not a conversation I particularly want to have, because the reality is he's not going to lose the captaincy. And I'd be more worried about his form than about him being the captain. I saw a better performance from him in his comeback game against Chelsea away at Stamford Bridge than what I've seen since he's come back. I know some people have highlighted that he showed a bit more fluency and a bit more urgency and a little bit more edge to his game in the second half last week against Leicester. But when I look at his game as a collective since he's come back, I ask any Arsenal fan to tell me and say, yeah, you know what, that game Arsenal won today, or that game Arsenal nicked a point, was because Martin Odegaard stepped up. That's not a conversation we can have as Arsenal fans this season, because he hasn't been that good. And the drop-off, really, from the last 2 seasons to what I've seen this season is scary, where he's out of his game. One of my criticisms of him, even when he was tearing it up in the Premier League in the last couple of years, he takes too many touches. He receives the ball too deep. The likes of Declan Rice and Thomas Partey, and maybe even the centre-backs, here to tell him, Martin, get out of our faces. I don't want to see you in our half. Just stay on the periphery of the halfway line, or get on the half turn in the opposing team's half and we will absolutely feed you the ball. He takes too many touches and he comes too deep, so you're too ineffective. It's different if you're a deep line playmaker and you've been told to do that. That's a different conversation if the manager's telling you that. But I don't think Mikel's telling him that. I don't think he's telling him that. But yeah, we don't stretch teams enough. We don't. If you go back and watch mini highlights of Arsenal's games this season, you won't see many goals where we've cut through teams in the central areas. You look at the first half yesterday, Arsenal will always dominate possession. Even prediction-wise, I was asked before the game, 2 days before the game, I said Arsenal win 2-1. It wouldn't be pretty. We didn't even score yesterday. And like I said, in terms of the team lineup, the only slight tweak on it, I'd have played Trossard as the false nine, personally. And I wouldn't have started Moreno in that game. But that's just me. And I'm not saying that because of hindsight. I generally thought that when I saw the team lineup come out and how the way the game was panning out in the first half. Because the problem is, and it's not Mikel Moreno's fault, he should not be put in that position because as a striker, he doesn't have, for a striker, you need to have the natural instincts to run in behind. You need to know where to be in the 18-yard box. You need to know where to receive the ball. You need to be in the box in the key moments in the 18-yard area when the balls are coming in for the flank. That's not his game. And for us to find ourselves in that position at this stage of the season is unforgivable. But yeah, look, I expected Arsenal to have a lot of the ball. That wasn't even a shock. If I'm going to go to the stats quickly now, if I can find them, people, so bear with me. Arsenal 67.7% overall possession, West Ham 32, XG 1.23, 20 shots at goal, 2 on target. We had the same amount of shots on target as West Ham, and they had 5 shots at goal. What is going on at this football club, man? I think after 60 minutes, Arsenal still only had 1 shot at goal. I mean, and one thing that we have kind of hung our hat on with Arsenal is in terms of the improvement of the defensive side of our game in the last couple of years. Even we're talking about calling Arsenal the Great Wall of Arsenal. But look at the goal we conceded yesterday for Jared Bowen. The thing is, when things happen in the moment, you're like, oh, for God's sake, we've conceded the goal. We could have done better. But when you actually sat back and you analyze the goal, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, right, is when he was at Palace, when he's at Manchester United, and now he's at West Ham, he's one of the best one-on-one defensive right backs in the country. By far. What he isn't, he's not one of the best attacking right backs in the Premier League. And in that moment, we made him look like prime Cafu. And you've got to remember, that goal comes from Arsenal on the attack. The move breaks down. The ball goes out to Aaron Wan-Bissaka, goes unchallenged for about 50, 60 yards. Calafiore's got to do better. You've got to get tighter. There's no way you can let that cross come in. But even when the cross comes in, Thomas Partey's in a good position with the move. Declan Rice is tracking Jared Bowen. And then they get the cross in. Why on earth Gabriel is ducking is beyond me. You've got to go and meet the ball. Why are you ducking? Declan Rice, you can't just let him run off you like that. You trap the run, he's going in the box and you let him go. So everyone was culpable for that. Calafiore, Gabriel, Declan Rice, all culpable, and they scored just before half time. And then I'm going to be honest with you, I was worried after going 1-0 down. Because you have to look at it from the point of view, Arsenal didn't look like they were going to create anything from what you saw before West Ham got the first goal. And if you analyze that game yesterday, for example, when did Arsenal create anything of note of a chance at goal other than corners or dead ball set piece free kicks? That is where Arsenal have got to, where we are relying on set pieces. Even with those, that's dried up now. yes, we've got a fantastic record, set pieces, corners across Europe in the last 2 seasons. But if we're going in recent times, we can't. The 5-1 against Man City seems a long time ago, doesn't it? Open play goals, set piece goals, took them to the sword. And then obviously, you know what happened? We played Newcastle in the second leg of the Carabao Cup. I think the win against Leicester last week papered over the cracks, and they were evident yesterday against West Ham. And let's be really, really honest here. We can give West Ham credit, which I have no problem doing. Whether you want to give them credit, don't want to give them credit, that's entirely up to you. But Arsenal, we're not playing against a team that are in form. Graham Potter's actually got a good record against Arsenal. I wasn't aware of how good it is. I think he's I think 4 out of 5. He's got a result at the Emirates, I think it is. And they got the goal. And I'm going to be worried. I'm going to be honest. Going into that second half, I was really worried. Really worried. Lack of creativity. I think there were moments you had a little bit of pressure. That was very few and far between. Let me come to the chat quickly. See you guys. Big up to you guys, man. Big sis, like I said. Emerson's in there. Suji's in there. My dear Jenny's in there. Still sick as a pig. Jenny, you know what? There's some games I'm glad I don't turn up to, watching Arsenal. And that was one of them. I'm glad I didn't do a watch along for that game, to be honest. Big up my guy, man. J Dime. Love you, bro. Big support of the channel. Seen you at the Emirates a couple of times. Keep doing your thing. Keep doing your work, working hard. And I'm sure we'll catch up soon. Oh, Jay, big up to you, man. Big up, my bro. On break at work. Had to hit you up. Yeah, do your thing, man. We'll catch up later, 100%. Big up to you, RJ, man. Man's locking in from X. Go on, bro. Retweet that button, bro. Need to do that myself when I'm talking to you. Give me 2 secs, people. I think I've done it anyway, but yeah, Arsenal. It's I'm exhausted watching them this season, man. Really exhausted. Some games this season have just been really taxing, man. But I think as I've got older, maybe even before I came, maybe even more so because I came into YouTube and having my own channel, I don't let it affect me too much. Because this is football we're talking about. I love Arsenal, but sometimes you need to take a break and a step back and enjoy time with your family. Take the dog for a walk. Take the missus out. Go out with a girlfriend, or go and watch some stuff on Netflix. Do something, because you don't let it consume you, man. You see it with whether you're on Facebook, more so Instagram and Twitter, more so Twitter, shall say. Some of the vitriol and the anger and I get it to a point which I'll sort of go through, but to the point where YouTube is free to watch, right? You can go and watch whatever content you want, whatever you want to go and watch. But to get to a point where you want to come into somebody's chat box or anything, anytime they comment on Arsenal, you just get so personal. It's crazy to me. You need to de-relax, man. Listen, I'm pissed off as much as any Arsenal fan, going back to summer recruitment and the January transfer window. But yeah, let me come back to the game. We're talking about the other bits, but the second half didn't get much better, did it? Because I think even 10 minutes in, Bowen almost scored again. I think it was a cross from Aaron Cresswell on down our right-hand side, and he just missed it. And if he scored that, it'd have been 2-0. I think that'd have been game done. It'd have been absolutely done, even at that point, because Arsenal have not been a team this season. Before Havertz got injured, before Martinelli got injured, even when Saka was in the team, where he was carrying the team on his back like he usually does, Arsenal have not been a creative force this season, hardly at all. We got through last season because we got goals by committee, but I was never hoodwinked by the amount of goals we scored last season, because the reality is, whether you're a team chasing the Premier League title or chasing top 4 or chasing European football or trying to survive relegation, you have to have a striker up front. You have to have a top man. You have to have a gun man. You need someone that can put the ball in the back of the net. Yes, you need things to facilitate around that, i.e. wingers that have movement, wingers that are good at one-on-ones, support from your attacking central midfield areas. That has to happen. That all has to be in unison. But Arsenal, still haven't done that since Aubameyang left the club. And that's unacceptable under any circumstances. We knew he was thin last year, coming into the season, last year, technically, that is right, because we started in 2024, didn't we? But let me sort of come to the game quickly, and then I'll wrap, and then I'll sort of go on to the other bits. But like I said, even after 60 minutes, one shot on target, after 60 minutes at home to a game you must win. And we made a couple of subs, which I don't think made a difference. People thought it might have been an injury to Rice, but quite clearly it wasn't, because I think Harry Simi tweeted it after the game that when he asked Mikel, he said the Rice substitution was purely tactical, which I think is probably even more of a concern, if I'm going to be really honest with you. Bought off Calafiori, who wasn't great, bought on Miles Lewis-Skelly and Zinchenko, which I don't think helped us one bit. I don't think we gained any more control on the ball. I thought we passed the ball for fun, sideways, backwards. There was no incision, which has been the case for quite a number of games. But if I'm going by yesterday, that's what I saw. Obviously, the sending off was an absolute definite sending off. At the time, I thought he was lucky to get the yellow card, but then on reflection, you saw it, you thought, nah, he's gone. He's completely gone. Look at the position of where Rare is. Look where, I think it was Gabriel or Saliba at the opposite end of the pitch. It was not going to make that. It's not going to make that cover. He's gone. That's 10 men. And actually, you probably kind of thought what you see with Arsenal this season, they're going to have to go for it, even at 10 men. You're 1-0 down. But even that, I mean, there are periods in the second half. You name me one clear-cut chance in the second half, other than when Ben White came on, when he hit that brilliant strike. Trossard had a shot at goal, straight at the goalkeeper. Shots blocked, shots over the bar. I think we could have played for another 2 days. We wouldn't have scored against West Ham. We wouldn't have scored. People in the chat, smash the like button. Also, as well, retweet on the Twitter feed, which I'll do right now as I'm talking. If I can find it at all. Give me 2 minutes, people. And you just had a feeling with that game. It was a bit of deja vu. And it was. Like I said, the Man City game at home seems like a long time ago, doesn't it? To be honest with you. Which isn't great. But yeah, I thought I have to say this. Mohamed Kudus for West Ham was outstanding yesterday. I thought Bowen, Ward-Prowse and him absolutely pressurized our midfield. They didn't give him a room to breathe, but Mohamed Kudus was excellent. Held the ball up fantastically well. Strength, pace, dynamic, which I've not seen from hardly any Arsenal wingers this season at all, other than Saka. He was excellent, Mohamed Kudus. Absolutely fantastic. There's some good wingers in this league, man. There's some really, really good wingers in this league, despite the deficiencies of the actual teams they play for. Kudus was fantastic yesterday. And obviously Bowen got the goal in the first half. And Arsenal, listen, what's that now? Let me quickly look. We've had 8 draws this season. And let me see how many losses we have. So we've had 8 draws and 3 defeats. That is a humongous amount of points dropped. Massive. I mean, that kind of form you'll get away with if you're going for top 4. You can't get with that type of form, particularly with the drop off of Manchester City, and expect to go win a league title. It's not going to happen. But let's come to some of the reasons why Arsenal performed the way they did yesterday. What you've seen this season, and what you make of some of the experienced players. We're relying on 2 18-year-olds to come to the forefront and step up for us, which is not right. It's not even a case of it's a couple of Arsenal players being off form. I'm talking about the experienced players, by the way. They're all culpable. The only positive to come out of yesterday's game, do you know what the only positive was, people? Do you want to tell you? I'll tell you what it was. This guy coming back. That was the only positive for me yesterday. I don't give any credit to any Arsenal player yesterday in that game. You know, Liverpool, whether you want to say they dropped points or they got a point against Villa, it doesn't really matter, because Arsenal had to take care of business. You have to apply the pressure and cut that gap down to 5 points, knowing that Liverpool have to go to Manchester City away. Liverpool have left the door ajar at many, many different points this season. But Arsenal, unfortunately, have not been good enough to capitalize and take advantage of that. And the reason why I think that is I don't think they're good enough. I don't think we've got a strong enough squad. As RJ's touched on in the chat, it's wafer thin, paper thin. And we knew that coming into the season, particularly if you're going to try and balance the books and offload Nketiah, offload Reece Nelson, offload Smith Rowe, offload Fabio Vieira. I'll be honest, I came into the summer window thinking it's going to be more about what Arsenal do to get players off the books and bring some monetary value in, which Arsenal, for me, is still not good enough at. We need to do better. And we bought in Calafiore, we bought in Raheem Sterling, which I still can't believe we bought him in. And it wasn't a good summer window. Some people rated it pretty highly, which I'm thinking, well, I don't know what you're seeing, because I don't know how you can rate that window as anything above a 6 or a 7. And I think I'm being polite by even saying that. And then we come to the January transfer window. Let's touch on that. Let's come to that. People, drop any questions in the chat when you can, and I'll star them and I'll get back to them. Now, if you want my personal opinion and not about what anybody else has said about January, and whether that be other YouTube content creators or people that consume YouTube and watch it as people just watching it and not necessarily have channels, January was a failure. Was an ultimate failure. Mikel Arteta came out multiple times saying that we were short and we needed a bit of help. Declan Rice said the same thing. I think even some of the players internally at Arsenal were like, you know what? Hopefully we'll bring somebody in. I'm sure the players were thinking that at Arsenal. I'm sure they would have been thinking that. Absolutely. Big up Scott. Just drop in the chat. Go on, Scott. Love you, Borgie, man. So January was a failure. Absolute failure. And I say to people before, and I said to people with this, go back 3 straight 4 seasons. Arsenal were going for a top 4. We come to January. We know that we need to have reinforcements to sustain our top 4 ambitions to get back into the Champions League. At the time, would have been out of it for what, maybe 4 straight 5 years. We bought in Austin Trusty and Matt Turner on loan and sent them back out. And subsequently, I think that might have been a season, was it? We linked with Vlahovic, was it? We didn't bring anybody and we missed out on top 4 under Mikel. So you didn't support him then. And that's going for top 4. You fast forward a few seasons later. How are you in a position where you're trying to challenge for your first league title in 20 plus years? Gone close to 2 seasons before that. And you go into the January transfer window knowing you're short and you bring in nobody, it's completely inexcusable. Now, I hear a lot. Sophie, big up Sophie Nicolau, allowed me to ask a question to Sammy when Sammy Mokbal was on there. And my question was about the sporting director. And obviously, Jason Ato has been at the club since, I think, 2013, 2014. He's worked alongside Edu in terms of the transfer deals when Edu was there. And from what you kind of hear from reports that Jason Ato, they look at him highly and think he's doing a good job. And you sit there and you think to yourself, hold on a minute, hold on. I'm not a footballing director. I absolutely am not, by the way. Sitting there in my gilet and baseball cap. You have an interim sporting director. Arsenal are short going into January. We bring in no one, and you're telling me this guy's doing a good job. That should have been his audition in helping Mikel bring in players into the club. I'm not saying necessarily we're going to bring in players that are going to be at world-class level or going to definitely take us over the line. But the fact that you got into January and we brought in no one is disgraceful. We have trouble scoring goals. We haven't been great keeping clean sheets this season, but let's be honest. We have trouble scoring goals in open play, primarily on breaking teams down. Why would you not thought it's a necessity to bring somebody in on loan? across the whole of Europe, South America, whatever parts of the world there are where Arsenal look at recruitment, it's completely unacceptable. Now, for me, going forward, that was Jason Ato's audition in January when we needed it. Because to me, I would ask the question, well, what are you waiting for? You can't turn around and say that there was nobody available. I'm not an accountant, for example, but from the noise that you hear, whether it be on the Swiss Ramble account or whatever respected journalist you believe, Arsenal were in a very good position financially going into that January transfer window. So that makes it even worse. The thing is, if Arsenal were not going to bring in anybody, Arsenal fans would have been angry, but they said, you know what? You haven't brought in anybody. And I think Arsenal fans were at that point anyway, because the first week went by, the second week went by, the third week went by, thinking Arsenal ain't going to do anything. And then we hear a few weeks ago, back in January, at the last hour, 12th hour, we're going to put in a bid for Ollie Watkins. Arsenal fans are thinking, what is going on here? This is insane. I mean, and then you hear Arsenal went into that with not an offer that is required to bring him to the club. And then you're thinking, right, okay, so what did Villa want? Villa wanted 60 million. Okay, there's a good chance Arsenal probably put in about 40, 45. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This is not about whether you wanted Ollie Watkins or not. Some people were for him, some people were not for him. That's not the point I'm making. The point is, if you know you want a specific player, and you know with Arsenal, when they want someone, they make it clear they want him. Now, I don't want to hear all this crap about you have been long-term admirers. You're not massaging our egos as Arsenal fans by saying that. If you're long-term admirers, go and get the deal done. The striker position of a football club is one of the most important positions that you're going to acquire in your playing team. That is the one position for me. You can talk about the money in football, fine. That is one position for me. You have to go over the odds to pay for that player. That's the one position you have to pay over the odds to get. Now, there's a point of me thinking, okay, I can understand why Arsenal didn't want to spend 60 million on a striker who's 29. However, he's Premier League proven. You've apparently been long-term admirers. If you wanted him that much, then you go and pay the money and go and get him. People would have had their opinions. Oh, we paid too much money for him. He's 60 million too much. I'm not an accountant. The money's not coming out of my purse or my wallet. Arsenal need to do something in order to sustain their title challenge. But to go from trying to do something at the last hour to not doing anything at all for the previous 4 weeks is reflecting really badly on the club. Every Arsenal fan knew we were short. Every Arsenal fan watches the game and sees, you know what? We're struggling to break teams down. We're struggling to score goals. Okay, cool. Sesko didn't want to come in the summer. I still think we'll get him personally come the summer. But we're almost being told to... It almost feels like it'll be next summer. I don't think Arsenal fans are saying... Arsenal fans are not saying that. But the club are making us feel like that, because if you're not going to actively do business in January, and I'm talking about January windows in general, by the way. Of course, we had a couple of seasons ago, we bought in, is it Kivior, is it Matt Turner, Jorginho, and Trossard? I think we bought in 4. Was that 4 or 3? Can't remember. And that's rare for Arsenal to do that. Very, very rare. But I was always of the mind that when it came to January, I said this to Arsenal fans when I was on other pods, treat that window with absolute caution. Even though Arsenal's supposed to be going for a league title, trust me, if you're an Arsenal fan of however many years or how old you are, you know how we are in January. You know how we are. I expected Arsenal to bring in 1. Don't ask you what position, but to not bring in anybody was not, it's to me, I even go beyond that. It's a gamble, it's a risk. I think it's high level incompetence. Let me come to the chat quick, because I saw Matthew putting a comment there. I feel sorry for Jason Ato. The chance of Martin Havertz going down for lengthy periods so soon after the window closed, extremely unlucky. I'll take your point, Matthew, but the reality is we knew we had an issue when we lost Saka. We knew we had an issue before we went to Dubai. Everybody seemed to think that was going to be the hokey cokey moment and everything's going to be all right. We go to Dubai and come back and go on a winning run. No, this is not the Arsenal side of 2024 that went into the start of 2024. This is not the Arsenal side of the 22-23 season. And I'll say this. Big up Sophie Nicola when she had David Hillier before the start. She had David Hillier on, one of our former players. I think there might have been before a ball was kicked, most probably. And he said that he worried for Arsenal coming into the third season. Because when you go so close in the 2 years previous, going up against a juggernaut of Manchester City, going for a league title, and you fall short, it's hard to go again. I understand the expectancy of the Arsenal fans to say, you know what, third time lucky, we'll get it done. I'm more confident. We've had 2 more years, two more years of experience with this side playing together. They'll get it done. No, it's going to be harder. And I think David Hillier was spot on. And you've seen it this season. I think it's turned out, yes, there's been injuries. Of course there has been. But if you look at the season as a whole so far, at this point to me doing this stream now, it probably was coming. I think we've been mentally scarred the last 2 years. I think we have. And there's one game I use as a reference. There's 2 games I use as a reference. It's against the same side. We played Newcastle away in the Premier League. I think was that game. Was that game at the beginning of November last year, or second week of November last year? Let me know in the chat. We lost 1-0. That was the game for me. I watched Arsenal that day and I said to myself, this side are not good enough to win major honours. They're not. I saw something that day and it really struck a chord with me. And people said I was crazy. They said, Albert, come on, this is November 2024 you're talking about. The season finishes in May 2025. I said, I know, but I'm watching this Arsenal side now. And after what happened at St. James's Park the season before, Arsenal should have been chomping at the absolute bit to turn Newcastle over at St. James's Park. The performance was, I got it in the title for this game yesterday, toothless. It was absolutely toothless. Devoid of any ideas. Never looked like scoring. Pedestrian football. Slow passing, easy to read, predictable to play against. We were poor. And I'm going to talk about the second leg in particular against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup. And there's a reason why I'm bring that up. You can talk about injuries. Part that to one side for the moment. You can talk about St. James's Park. Unbelievable atmosphere. Part that to one side. Arsenal at that time, at that game, you even forget the first leg, but I know it's relevant because we're 2-0 down, we've got to come back into the game. But take that second leg game in isolation. There's often been a label labeled at Arsenal for a number of years now. Pressure games, real high core pressure games. When the pressure's on, Arsenal fold like a deck of cards. That Carabao Cup semi-final against Newcastle, you can talk about playing style, you can talk about tactics, you can talk about personnel. You know, days before we beat Manchester City 5-1 at the Emirates. Took a lot out of us, of course it did. But that game against Newcastle, and I said this to a couple of my guys in the chat, in my WhatsApp group chat, what I wanted to see with that game for Arsenal against Newcastle in that hostile environment was to show some bollocks. You can show me talent. You can show me skill. You can show me intricate football. But show me one thing in that second leg semi-final. Show me some appetite and show me some bollocks. And I didn't see that. That's why I was so angry after that game. People talk about, the Ødegaard chance and, you could have made that 2-1 at the time. It would have been a different game. But the way Arsenal played in that game, for me, was unacceptable. We're not, with the exception of Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan Nwaneri, who just broke into this Arsenal team and, rising stars for the future. That's not on them. We have a nucleus of this side now, been playing together for 4 years. You're not inexperienced to be stepping into a second leg at St James's Park, 90, 120 minutes away from Wembley, and you put in a performance like that. You have to question the mentality of these players. When you see that second leg against Newcastle at St James's Park, you can question their mentality when you see that performance yesterday against West Ham. And you can do that about a various amount of games this season. This is not an accident. We have become risk adverse. I think the manager's petrified after what happened the last 2 seasons. This whole control, being in possession, has not worked this season. I said it before. I said this after we played. Oh God, who did we play? Oh man, I have to go through my social media. I can't remember now. And I said that I've never seen an Arsenal side or a team play so much in their own half without actually being a threat to the opposition team. Saliba to Gabriel to Lewis Skelly or Calafiori, back to Gabriel to Timber back to the centre backs. Erdegaard coming deep like a quarterback. You shouldn't be there. Get us further up the pitch. What has happened to the basics of football? I said it yesterday on Sophie's channel on Hybrid Squad. Are the players allergic? Have they been told they're not allowed to shoot from 15 to 25 yards at goal? Pull the trigger. The last time I remember, shooting from distance has not been outlawed in football. Why can we not do that? Why have we been? Why? I'll tell you something. The last 4 straight 5 years at Arsenal, right? There was a stat flying around a few seasons ago. You might remember, where Martin Erdegaard's free kick goal against Burnley was the only goal we scored from a direct free kick in about 3 seasons. That's unforgivable. We don't seem to have players that are free kick specialists. We don't seem to have players that go beyond the centre backs. You can go back to the summer recruitment, because even if you talk about a question was posed yesterday, even look at the time of Edu leaving, that was not a good reflection on the club. It wasn't. And I think you look at that, and I don't think it helps. And then you have an interim technical director who they say is doing a good job in Jason Ato. You can't say that was a good recipe to go into the January transfer window. It wasn't. I don't care how long Jason Ato has been at the club. People talk about the striker market, for example, being a difficult market. It's not like it used to be 20, 15 years ago where there were loads and loads of options to get, but you can get someone. In terms of the sporting director role, is it sporting director role? This is not a case of where there's not enough people out there. There's plenty of people out there that could fulfill that role. They're talking about the guy from Sociedad. Was it Roberto? Is it Obalade or Alade? His name is. There's loads of whether it be domestically or you go into Europe or South, wherever. There are plenty of skilled operators at a sporting director role that Arsenal not short of options. I don't personally think they should give the job full time to Jason Ato, because if you're going to turn around and tell Arsenal fans, or Arsenal fans are going to say this is a big summer, I've heard the 2 words big summer for about the last 5 years. I said it's going to be a big summer in regards to us actually being back in the Champions League, because this is the thing that we used to argue against as Arsenal fans. We used to say, look, it's difficult to attract top players or attract players when you're not in the Champions League. We've been back in it in the last couple of years now. And you see a transfer window that we've seen in January like we have. It's not mathing up here, man. It's a complete failure. Let me come to chat quickly, because you guys have been popping off. I need to log off soon as well. Bloody hell, 50 minutes are gone. Big up to you guys, man. Scott, let me get the chats up. Same story as recent seasons. Pressure increases as we get closer to the title. And then we drop points. Probably would have lost with a full team. Massive mentality problem in this squad club. Yeah, there is. Because if you cut through the nuts and bolts of it, if you cut through all the spill, all the vitriol on social media, we are not mentality monsters because of, I think Sophie said this to me, a great team beats Manchester City 5-1 and goes to Newcastle and goes and delivers. You don't pull out trees in one game and then drop off as bad as they did in that second leg. We got bullied in that game. Bullied. Need to take part in the window for it to be a failure. It's not applicable, which is a failure on the Arteta board and ownership. They're all culpable, Suj. To go into that window knowing we were short, the manager has been saying it in press conferences. I'm not deaf. And you brought in nobody. And at the 12th hour, you go for Watkins. And I understand Arsenal fans being angry, saying Arsenal did that to appease the fans, to say, you know what, we tried to get someone, we couldn't get anybody. January's tough. That's how it comes across a little bit. Jenny, love Jenny. None of the fans are supporting directors, but can all see what the issues are. From Edu leaving when he did, to the recruitment in the summer, to the lack of January transfer windows, and also to the experienced players that are in this side who have failed to deliver this season. We should not be doing podcasts, for example, talking about whether Declan Rice is a 6 or an 8. This is insane. We're coming into March in a few weeks. It's crazy. New in December, no one was going to be bought. Too interesting. Yeah, I think the recent merch came out, was it a couple of weeks ago, a week ago? I feel sorry for Jason. I had a chance to Martinelli. Yeah, I think I read that one, but no. Listen, we knew Arsenal were in the red in terms of certain players and injuries. Money do come out of our wallets. My worry now is what a negative spiral results will do to the morale heading into next season, how it impacts the summer business. The thing is, we find ourselves in a position where we bought Mikel Moreno, who's obviously Mikel deems at the moment is not good enough to start in our midfield, but he's playing up front for Arsenal on the 22nd of February 2025. Make it make sense. Mad. Absolutely crazy. We need a Bruno Fernandes type creative player next season, a replacement for Partey, and of course a striker. More worryingly, we assume Saka and Havertz will be the same after injury. Matthew, great point. Because particularly when you come out from a hamstring injury, if it's down to me, I wouldn't play Saka again this season. I said that when he got injured, and that was waiting to happen. That with Bukayo Saka, same thing with Havertz. Ran him into the ground. The thing is, I tell you, I'd love to see at Arsenal, and this is my own personal opinion, and I've said this for quite a few seasons actually. And actually, he was a player I earmarked when he signed for a particular London club in the Premier League. Someone we need to keep an eye on. Berchiese at Palace. He's the type of player we don't have at Arsenal. He's a ball carrier. He's a dead ball set piece specialist. He can get you the odd goal or two. Glides across the floor. Will get you up the pitch. Would be an ideal signing for us. But I don't think Arsenal will look at him. Just overtraining, process driven. We need to do a certain amount of passes before we are allowed to shoot. It's so frustrating, honestly. Pull the trigger and shoot. I'm worried about the club. Big up, Shane. The preparation for this season has been catastrophic since the summer. Edu leaving. I feel like there aren't any football people in the upper hierarchy that understand. Yeah, there's a lot of criticism because obviously I think Richard Garlick comes from more of he's a lawyer, isn't he? He's more of a lawyer background kind of thing. Alabi, that's the name. That's the one. What was I going to say? Let me come to the chat quickly. Going to pick up Lucy. Jenny, love you to pieces. Pass on my love to Lucy as well. I think Lucy's at the game yesterday. Tell her to kind enjoy the rest of her Sunday. Oh, God. Jesus. It's even with... you see the guy, the Real Sociedad guy that's been linked? I see an account a couple of days ago say that, it's... I have to laugh sometimes with some of the people that claim they're in the know with Arsenal news. The only thing you have to do, is when you see people broken news, particularly when it comes to sporting director level, go and look at their actual account and see how many followers they got. So why would you know before a respected journalist like Ornstein, Sammy Mokbel, Matt Law, or Ollie Holt, or whoever else? Why would I believe somebody that's got a following of 6,000, saying that we've apparently signed the Real Sociedad sporting director. And the thing is, even if it's true, I don't really care. You're not getting any brownie points for brokering news about a sporting director, man. Do me a favor, honestly. Jesus. Some of the people on this Twitter platform is unbelievable. Don't get the summer right. The project will be over. Sleep will be off in 2026, and maybe others will also depart. What's that saying again? They call it. Let me see if I can find it. Was it fail? Is it for fail to prepare, prepare to fail? That sums up Arsenal. I'm going to wrap up quickly, people. But I'm going to come to Suji's point he made earlier. I've mentioned this before. I think Arsenal are in a position now. I know sections of our fans are very sentimental, but as I said to you before, I'm not sentimental when it comes to Arsenal players, man. I might like them, but if we have to move certain people on, whether they're assets or they're not required at the club anymore, or it's not been a good move for them coming to Arsenal, so be it. But I think Arsenal in a position now where if they really want to bring in some big money, they're going to have to look at selling one of their major assets. Every club does it. Every club does it. Listen, you can go through, we can talk about Eden Hazard at Chelsea. You can talk about Philip Coutinho at Liverpool. We all have to do it. And I know that that's not going to please a lot of Arsenal fans, but it's true. If you're a club, yes, you have to bring in and recruit players. Of course you do. But you also have to sell well. And Arsenal have not been good at doing that. That's why you saw a little bit of it in the last summer window where players got moved on for monetary value. But if it's someone like Suj mentioned Ødegaard, for example, now that's not, and I know for a fact it's not because Suj doesn't like Ødegaard, but I understand the point of why you say it, because there always has to be a marquee player at your club where you say, you know what, that's the one. I know people talk about Saliba, that probably will happen anyway, eventually at some point. But and he will bring in a lot of money. But whether that be a likes of, I always said for me, if you're going to look to cash in to upgrade on a particular attacking position, or you might look at somebody who's surplus to requirements. I've said if you look at sort of the core 12, 13 players, someone like a Martinelli will probably bring in about 50, 60 million, and that'd be big money for Arsenal. Yeah, 100%, bro. But people, as Albert JTV over and out. Thank you for joining me this Sunday morning. A lot to get off the chest. And we go again in a very tough game against Nottingham Forest. That's going to be hard, man. I think we're in trouble for that game if we play like we did yesterday with the players we got out. But it is what it is. But people, smash the like button. I'll put this on the audio a little bit later as well from Apple and Spotify. Smash the likes. Subscribe to Albert JTV. But that is me over and out for another Sunday morning reaction. Get your love and virtual waves and goodbye, people, because Albert JTV is over and out for another show. See you soon, people. God bless.